Hey everyone, I'm meteorologist Kat Campbell with WRAL. If you don't already subscribe to the WRAL YouTube page, make sure you do that and like this video so you can keep getting our latest information. But let's all take a collective sigh of relief here. Hurricane season is almost over for 2025. We made it through. No new tropical development is expected for the next week. We typically don't see a whole lot of action during the month of November, even though we can during October. This October, no different with Hurricane Melissa as Jamaica continues to clean up after this storm. But let's talk about how we did. WRAL put out our own forecast for the 2025 hurricane season with our team of meteorologists. This is what we were calling for, 13 to 15 named storms. So that would put us around MNO for the alphabet, if you like to look at it that way. 6 to 8 hurricanes and 2 to 3 Category 3 or higher hurricanes. We call those major hurricanes. So let's put this into some perspective here. This year, we had 13 named storms. We did pretty good with the named storms. We were one off, though, for hurricanes and major hurricanes. So we were forecasting 6 to 8 hurricanes. There were 5 hurricanes this year, and then the number of major hurricanes was 4. The bottom line here is that this was a near normal hurricane season for the Atlantic when you look at satellite era data, and that's since about the 1950s, and we ended up with a near normal season. How do we do stacked up against NOAA and some of the other outlets? Well, NOAA was actually forecasting higher numbers than we were for many of these, especially for the named storms or tropical storms. So we actually did pretty good with our forecast. A couple things that I want to point out back to our forecast here at WRAL that we included when we put out our hurricane season forecast in May. There were 2 things. The data shows that we are seeing an increase in the number of tropical tornadoes. So hurricanes can sometimes spin up tornadoes as they move inland and make landfall toward the Carolinas. This year, we actually didn't see that here locally, but we didn't see a whole lot of action. We had Chantal, but that brings me to the other point that we made in May for our early season outlook was for an increased threat from tropical systems spinning up close to land. And we call these homegrown systems. And the one storm that we were impacted by, Chantal, was a homegrown system. It spun up offshore. We didn't have a lot of time to track it since it developed and moved ashore so quickly. So that part of the forecast was pretty accurate for us here in North Carolina. And, just something to keep in mind, though, the Gulf Coast had their first year in 10 years without a hurricane or tropical system making landfall. So the Gulf got a nice little break. We made it to the name Melissa. We really closed out the season with a bang. Check this out. We had a Category 5 hurricane. Melissa was the last one of the season. This year, when you look at all of the tropical system names, and I put what kinds they were, tropical storm icons, hurricane icons, we actually had 3 Category 5 hurricanes, which is rather impressive. We had 2 big impactful systems. One was Chantal and the other was Melissa. And then the Outer Banks really were hit hard by a lot of these storms. Even though they remained hundreds of miles offshore, they were able to churn up rough surf, and we saw a record number of homes collapse in Buxton, the Outer Banks this year, as we saw that rough surf really lead to a lot of coastal erosion down east. So I do want to mention something here. When you look at these tropical cyclone names, we do not pick these names. Actually, the National Weather Service doesn't even pick these names. That is from the World Meteorological Organization. And any of these names that were not going to be expired, I think Melissa will probably be expired since it had such an impact on some of the Caribbean. Any of these that aren't expired will be recycled and reused about 5 years from now. So just a fun, tropical fact to keep in mind. Let's look at the rest of the season. While it's possible to get some development in November, even December and January, hurricane season officially ends on November 30th. So we're almost there for the end of hurricane season. The peak is September. As we get into November and December, you can see that activity goes to about 0. We have actually seen tropical systems on reanalysis that have formed in the winter months, but at this point, I don't see any concern, and those have all stayed well out to sea. Luckily, this year we didn't get the big one here in North Carolina, but we will continue to keep you updated as we get closer to next year's hurricane season. In the meantime, we are focused in on the winter weather outlook. Our forecast for that is coming out on WRAL News at 6 o'clock on November 24th. We've had fun building that, so be sure to tune in as we transition from hurricane season to hopefully snow season. I much prefer the snow to tropical systems. Have a good one, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.